Hey, good evening, and welcome to Community Conversations. I am this evening's host, Sarita Edwards, the co-founder of the Iwi Foundation. I also serve as CEO of the foundation, and tonight we're doing just a relaxed parent conversation. We want to talk about COVID and the effects it has had on families, specifically special needs families and families with rare disease, rare diagnoses at the household. And so joining me this evening to talk about that is Shanae Jackson. Shanae, thank you so much for being with us.
You are so welcome. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So we know we have been dealing with COVID now for almost a year.
Mm-hmm.
And to those of us with children with rare illnesses and special needs and underlying medical conditions, it's just been a little harder for us. And so
Yeah.
we wanted to just kind of have a conversation about, what that family dynamic looks like
Mm-hmm.
right now. I guess the very first question is, how are you? As the mother of the children and the wife, and how
Mm-hmm.
are you holding up through all of this? Has it been really, really difficult for you just with the pandemic and everything that you have to deal with a special needs kid?
Yes. And I with my son on the autism spectrum, it has been very, very difficult. And I would say I would think the most thing that has been really, really difficult and has been challenging is just because we are a family of structure. And when COVID hit, like we had to really and we're still trying to navigate through what is structure, because you have that structure of how the day goes, the timing thing. School is from this time, then you do dinner from this time. By the time they get home from school, you can help with homework. Well, now it's the case of you've become the teacher, the lunch lady, you work a full-time job, you still have to be the wife, and then in the midst of you're trying to make sure the IEP is taken care of, trying to make sure he's in this class, but then you're in a meeting, at work. So it has really, really it's been difficult, that whole structure piece, because you just don't know how to have a plan. You don't know how to really, really put a plan in place because of COVID, because you never know what's going on. So I would say, like, it's really, really been difficult. And so for us, we've just been honestly having to take it day by day, whereas normally we would have a whole monthly structure of occupational therapy, speech therapy,
Mhm.
school, but we just have to take it day by day, because sometimes therapy is canceled,
Right.
this is canceled, that's canceled. So it's just basically now with COVID, honestly, it's just like a day by day type of thing.
hmm So has it been difficult for your special needs kid? Has it been difficult for him to adjust? You having to navigate all of that.
Mm,
A lot of times being the leader, the one who spearheads all of that, we often feel that burden more than
yeah.
anybody else.
Mm.
Have you noticed that the adjustment has been really, really difficult for him as well?
Yeah, I would say that it has been, simply because where it was a case of you're in school and you have a teacher to help you with your one-on-one work. Well, now because mom works a full-time job, I can't just stop and help at that moment, where at school you actually had a teacher that was sitting right there to assist you throughout the day.
Yes.
So it's been difficult for him, just having to try to grasp, and I hate to say it, but kind of like some days have to do it on his own. You get what I'm
hmm
saying? So
hmm
that's been the most difficult part for him. And then, being around other children, that, that's kind of been a difficult part too, because, he's been going along with the same special needs children since he's been in school. So it's like now it's a totally different dynamic. It's just him. You get what I'm
Right.
saying?
Right.
So that really been difficult for him, and it has been difficult just going through those days where he's like, Mom, can you help me? And I'm like, I'm in a meeting. I just try to do your best, and he's having to navigate that whole piece of, well, what am I supposed to do? He doesn't know what to do, but mommy just can't stop right now, so you got to put it on hold. So that's been hard for him, because it's him having to adjust, whereas at school it's a totally different dynamic, because in the IEP, from this time to this time, he has a teacher to help him. Well, at home, this time to that time, he doesn't have that. So it's been difficult for us, him as, the special needs child, and then me as the parent. Yes, definitely.
Right. Have you noticed any regression as far as like his learning capabilities? Have you noticed where just during this time, milestones that he had reached, maybe he is not as strong as he was prior to all of this, or is he pretty much staying where he is? Has it been a challenge to not fall back to things that he had accomplished, and now he's struggling in those areas? Have you seen any of that at all?
Yeah, I would say that, especially in the reading part, um, he has actually, like, fallen back a little bit, simply because, a special needs child that has an IEP, their work is supposed to be modified. Well, unfortunately, due to COVID and things that have happened, some days he get work that hasn't been modified, and he's like, certain words that he had he mastered certain skills, is like, now we're having to redo those skills, because he hasn't, he's not at school, so it's not like it's a repetitive thing. And then, like, where he was getting this particular work, and we were working on this, is like, now because of COVID, it's more so a case of, well, let me just send him something, and so it's outside of those skills that he has mastered, because you're just sending him something that's, number one, is way over his head, and number two, is not on his skill set. But we try to work through it. And so, yes, he's regressed, because where he was, before COVID hit, like, we're having to go back now and repeat those. And we're about to enter into the second 9 weeks, and so it's like, we're struggling. Yeah,
Right,
definitely.
right, right. And
Yeah,
and he was I know he was school based prior to COVID, right? He wasn't homeschooled at all. He was just,
at
and
all.
that's the same way with us. Our little guy, not nearly as old as your guy. He was this would have been his first year
Right.
in public school,
Mm-hmm.
and it's a pre-K program, so completely different compared to someone who's middle school, high school age. So I can only imagine the challenges that you're facing. Um, has it been terribly difficult? Just compare him and your atypical kid who is not special needs at all. Has it been difficult as far as, or have you noticed
Mm-hmm.
um, a huge difference in the adjustment to virtual learning? Um, has it been, a lot of the typical children, and I think I
Mm-hmm.
said atypical earlier, I misspoke, but a lot of the typical normal children,
Mm-hmm.
they're having challenges,
Mm-hmm.
but they are adjusting.
Yeah. Yeah.
Comparing the two of them, do you see a drastic difference in how they're handling having to be in the virtual platform?
I would say it's a drastic difference, because my other son that's in the 11th grade, because he's able to read on his level, he's able to do math on his level, and him being home virtually, he's able to navigate through doing school on the Chromebook, where he doesn't need any help. He's able to, adjust to just doing, video calls with his friends, and they just, simply do their work on, online, and, or on, like a Zoom or a Facebook, FaceTime or whatever. And so for him, he's adjusted, because it's more so easier for him because he already has the skill set to do all of those things. Whereas my other son, he's having to try to navigate, well, how do I work the Chromebook? How do I, so how do I even get to the Google Classroom, So it takes him a little longer versus, my other son, he's a whiz. He just goes to it, he gets to it, he does the assignment. Whereas my special needs kids is like, well, Google, what is the Google Classroom?
Right.
Where is it? How do you even work through it? Because we had to do a whole case of how do you use the Google Classroom? How do you get into the classroom where the teacher is? And how do you, and then not to mention, for typical children, they know how to type sentences that make sense, and they're interacting well with the special needs kids. They may not know how to do sentence structure right now. So they're not, their sentence structure is not proper enough for the teacher to read it to understand what they're trying to say.
Right.
So it's totally different, and it's such a big difference from a normal kid than a special needs kids, because it's like that extra help that they would normally be getting, they're not getting that,
Right.
So it's definitely a challenge, and then it's a challenge where, for my son, sometimes he'll help, my special needs son. Okay, well, he still has work he still has to do, but every child doesn't have that, so it's something that's it has been it's been challenging, and it has been very, you can tell it's a difference.
Right. And one of the things that I wanted to kind of throw in too is just the conversation of the IEP. You already touched on it a little bit, just talking about how when we're in person in school pre-COVID, the IEP has those individualized standards for our children. And now school districts, they should be following those distance learning plans, IEPs, as best they can, but we all know that it's been a challenge to even get those executed.
Right.
So you talked about a little bit how a lot of the work that's being assigned is still it's over his head, so it goes against what he should be doing. Have you had challenges reaching out to your special education team, or is it something that I don't want to look as if we're bashing, but is it a case of the needs just aren't being met because we're COVID and things are just so chaotic right now? Is it is it several IEPs maybe? Is it a large student population in the special education classes that require this assistance? Like, what do you think the challenge is as far as not being able to keep his specific needs going through this pandemic?
Yeah. Well, for us, just first of all, like for my son had an IEP. We had like at the end of the year, how you have the IEP meetings, you set up what's gonna, and for us, the start of the year, him going into like with the COVID and having an IEP, the struggle for us was, first of all, when school first started, I had to literally call the school every day just to find out who his case was assigned to, because he actually was in the 9th grade. So he started at a new school. And, I had to call like several days just to find out who the case was assigned to. And once I found out, it was a case of, okay, so can we have a meeting now? Because I need to know exactly, like, him going as a freshman, what is this going to look like for us? And, it was kind of, it was really difficult, because like at first when school first started, like I said, he was getting assignments that were just like over his head. Well, like you said, we're not bashing, but I just have to tell you exactly how it went. His teacher, she had not even read his IEP. She didn't even know what he was supposed to be getting, what he was not supposed to be getting, because they were doing the whole virtual thing. No, they were getting everybody else ready. And come to find out, she was the geometry teacher all day, but yet she was the special needs teacher as well. So it was like, well, how is he going to get his resources if you're teaching geometry all day? So it was a case of where literally I had to contact the school and just bring it to their attention. And, and once I brought it to their attention, his case was assigned to someone else, because it was just a case of like, although he's virtual, he still needs his team that was put together. He still needs these resources, and it can't be a case of we just going to send him something and he does it. Well, no, because that's not according to what his IEP is. And I think for most of us as parents, if we don't take the time to read the IEP, we don't know what rights we have as parents. And I knew, because I'm a stickler, I read everything. And because I read it, I knew that my right as a parent was, I can say, okay, well, this is not working, let's implement this. This is not being done, okay, I need you guys to look into this. So I think for us, for me, the struggle was just getting the team together to implement the IEP for us. That was where we struggled at in the beginning with the whole COVID thing. Whereas before, when he was in like the school with the teachers, like we had already had the meetings, first week, second week of school, everything was in place. And, it wasn't a case of I'm having to call, let's get this together. It was how it was supposed to be, and even this year with the COVID, it was maybe a month and a half into it, even before his his therapy started. So I had to even call, and I'm like, okay, well, what about his therapy? What about speech therapy? Why is these things not? But it was a case of, okay, well, we have so many virtual students, give us some time. But I'm like, but he's lacking on what he needs because the whole COVID thing and so for us, it was just that whole, just getting everybody in place, the team in place, in order for his IEP to just even be implemented. So that was our struggle.
And that was actually my very next thought. I was actually just sitting here thinking about services and resources, and a lot of times, most children with an IEP, they do receive those supplemental services like physical therapy, occupational therapy, speech. And so that was actually my next question. What kind of challenges have you had with receiving those services? And are they offering those to you in person, or are those a part of the virtual platform too? Like, what does that look like? And I don't want to call out school districts or anything, because I don't want folks to feel like we're trying to attack, but we're just trying to raise awareness.
Right.
So has that been a challenge for you? How has services been for him? For him specifically?
Okay, so for his services, they are virtual. They're not in person. They are virtual, and he gets those on a Friday. And basically, it's a case of you have to sign up for it now, where it was, in school, he automatically, he would just have those services and he would go. Well, now it's a case of I have to make sure that he's, signed up for that week. Then he signs in on time. And, for one time, the internet wasn't working, not on our part, but on that part. So that day he missed services because, and so it was a case of, because there were so many other children that had services that day, we had to wait till the next Friday. So it's just things like that versus where, in person, you don't have the internet issue where, you will still be getting those services. So yeah, they are virtual, and it's just a case of with my son, just trying to keep him focused, because, after a certain time of the day, he's like, I'm done, but it's like, no, no, you have to, it's speech time, you know what I'm saying? And he like, and it's like, okay, well, in speech, sometimes, like I said, because I work a full-time job, it's like sometimes literally I have to try to man my day. Okay, these 30 minutes, let me take my lunch because I need to sit here with him to make sure that he's focused on, his therapy or, whatever the assignment is. Whereas when he's in school, it's a different case because, she's right there, he's right there, so that's really been like the difficult part of, but he does get the services, but it's just virtual. But I will say this, even with him having the services and it being virtual, there's still like a lag where he's not where he should be. You see what I'm saying? So yeah, but he does get them virtual though.
So do you think in this virtual platform, if he received those services in person, that would be a greater benefit? I know our school district, or the school district that we're in, that was something that was offered at one point for services. You could, if you wanted, you could receive them virtual. If you were in the virtual platform, but if you were in the virtual platform and you wanted to come to the school to get them, you could do that. So do you think, first, let me ask, is that even an option? Is it an option to get the services in person, even though you're in the virtual format?
Okay, so in our school district, you had to either choose between in-house or virtual. And if you chose virtual, it was virtual through the whole year, even with the services.
Wow.
So
okay.
You didn't have that option to choose, have some in school, some out. It was either virtual, either or. So for us, because we did choose virtual for the entire year, everything is virtual for us.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, we decided to choose virtual too for the entire year. I think our biggest thing was, just not really knowing, what everything was going to look like in school. I didn't believe my children would be able to keep masks on all day. I felt like they would get tired of it. So because I felt like that for them, we decided to do virtual too. And then too, of course, we have one with asthma, and then we have another one with rare illness, and a list of medical complexities. So we didn't want to expose him. But I will say, even being in the virtual format, our district, I gotta just say kudos. They did offer us an opportunity to receive services in person if we wanted to. I declined it just because I was trying to, eliminate every risk. So we do take them virtually too. I was gonna ask too. I had another question that came to mind. It left me. I think I wanted to just ask, when it came to just dealing with COVID itself, have you guys been directly affected by COVID? I know this whole conversation is about COVID and just the impact on our families. Because we have special needs kids, of course, that's a conversation that falls up under that. But in addition to our special needs kids, have you guys faced COVID? Have you guys had to isolate or quarantine or care for someone who's been dealing with COVID? And how has that been for y'all?
Well, we did have within our home, because we do have someone that actually lives with us that's not family, and she did in fact contract COVID, and so for us, we did have to quarantine for 14. Oh, I think it was even longer than that. And so for us, it was hard because, number one, you just never know what to expect, and because COVID, it affects everybody differently. You just never know. So for us, basically, because of the layout of my home, we isolated on one side and she was on the other side, because we just did not want to put anybody else in jeopardy. And for me, I was more so the caretaker for her as far as, like food and making sure, that she was okay. And my other family members did not have any contact with her at all. And so what we basically did was, at the beginning of finding out that she had COVID, we all got tested just to make sure that we had not been exposed. And then when she went back and got another test, and it came out negative, we went and got tested again just to make sure that we were not exposed, so that we wouldn't, expose it to anyone else. So, but it was really, really a challenge, just because me taking care of her and then having to, come back, to my family, that was really, really hard. But we got so many different instructions from the doctor of what to do, what not to do, put on a mask, put on, basically do this, because you're caring for someone that has COVID. And by the grace of God, I'm so thankful, she came out of it, and when it got tested negative, and like I said, we all got tested and came back negative, and she's doing very, very well. She's good. But like I said, and having to explain what is COVID to my special needs, and just having to have that dialogue, as to what it is, how it affects, what it looks like, that was really a challenge, because you had to, explain it on their level. That was kind of a challenge. And now that it's actually in your home, and you have to try to help them to understand, well, why I can't come to this side of the house when I'm normally able to be everywhere, where right now you have to stay here. So for me, that was a challenge, just trying to get him to understand, what is COVID, why, how, and explain it to him to where, on his level, where he could understand it. So, and being directly affected, and now it's like in our presence, that was also a challenge, because it was something we've never experienced it before. We've never seen it before. And now it's like right here, so that was really a challenge for us.
I sit and I think about all the different cases of COVID that I have heard about, and and folks that I know who have been directly affected. And
Yeah.
I think we champion we champion folks who can fight this thing outside of the hospital.
Yeah.
We celebrate that they are not severe enough to have to be hospitalized. But but even celebrating that, I think we still initially don't think about just the toll that it takes on caring for someone with COVID. We don't ever want to see our loved ones hospitalized for something like this or anything. But just COVID is scary. You don't know, and it's affecting everybody so differently. But it's really, really interesting to me how how extreme the two ends are. We're glad that you didn't have to go to the hospital, but then we sit and think about all of the steps and the precautions that we have to take caring for you at home, and you don't think about that a lot of times until you're in that spot. You know what I mean? Like, you don't think about it until you're there. You of course, you try to avoid it as best you can, but when it hits, it hits.
Yes.
It really, really hits.
Really
It
does.
really hits. And so this has been really, really great. One of the things that we just really wanted to do when we started community conversations, we wanted to just bring awareness and exposure to a bunch of different topics. And COVID is one that has come up so many different times, just within the organization and from the community. And so we wanted to talk about it and get other folks' perspectives on it. And get other folks' perspective on it, and just kind of see where everybody is with this conversation. I think everybody has so many different viewpoints. even from when to get tested to how long you should quarantine.
Right. Yeah.
Everybody's views are so different. And so I think that's why we really wanted to have the conversation, but we wanted to bring in folks who are directly affected by the stuff too. We don't want to just be talking about it um, um, with just anybody. We want people to give valid information and valid experiences, and folks who are not afraid to be completely transparent with the community. So that's absolutely what we want. So we are so excited to have you and to get that information. And we're going to put this on our social media platforms, and it's going to be on our website. So to those of you who catch this video, if you have questions, you are more than welcome to email the foundation, and we will try to get those questions answered for you. If you have a child with special needs who is school age in public school, private school, whatever the case, and they have an IEP, and you're having challenges with that, we encourage you to reach out to your school district. Um, um, that's what they're there for. This is a challenging time for everybody, but let them know what your needs are, and see if they can accommodate those needs for you. So we want to thank Shanae for being with us this evening. And until the next conversation, we will talk to you guys soon. Bye, guys.